my life really started when I was 24, 25. I was kind of messing around before then, and I didn't know what I wanted to do and everything. I was a bit depressed. I was a bit, I didn't have any direction. I wasn't very motivated, wasn't very driven. I was just kind of playing at life, really. And then, 24 came around and I started smashing it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Flex Appeal podcast. One day, the number one fitness podcast in the entire world, but not just yet. My name is Ryan. I'm the host, and you might notice I'm on my ones today. I thought we're over halfway through season one. The first episode we ever did with Charlotte, we kind of went into a little bit of my backstory, but I actually really wanted to do a bit of a Q&A and get you guys to ask me some questions that you might be interested in and also elaborate more on my story and my life. So I put a poll on Instagram, or I put a question box on Instagram, and I got some good responses. So this should be quite some good conversation between myself and myself. Anyway, I'm going to crack on straight away with, let's go with this one. Let's start off deep. So, I'm not going to say who asked them, but so this person asked, what advice would you give 16-year-old Ryan based on everything that you have learned in business and fitness? Now, I'm 28 years old, so that means that would have been 12 years ago, which is a long time ago. And I think that I've changed massively since 16. Now, I've said to a few people recently, I might have said it on the podcast as well. I've said to a few people recently that my life really started when I was 24, 25. I was kind of messing around before then, and I didn't know what I wanted to do and everything. I was a bit depressed. I was a bit, I didn't have any direction. I wasn't very motivated, wasn't very driven. I was just kind of playing at life, really. And then, 24 came around and I started smashing it. So, what advice would I give to 16? Now, my brother is 16 years old, or is about to turn 16 years old this year. So my advice would be, I think that you have to try something to know you don't like it. I was very much, no, I don't like that. Oh, I don't want to do that because I won't like it. Very much, especially with food, right? I was very picky eater. But you have to try something to know if you like it. And I was actually saying to one of my clients this morning, sometimes you have to jump to know how far you can jump. But a lot of the time, you won't jump because you're too scared to jump, even though you could have jumped that distance. A lot of jumping. But a lot of the time, you limit yourself. And I think that I was like that as a kid. Trust the process, massively trust the process. Also, at 16 years old, you shouldn't know what you want to do with your life. Maybe know what you want to achieve out of life, but not what job you want. I think somebody said once, the normal person has like 7 jobs or 7 careers in their lifespan. So I would tell 16-year-old Ryan, if I could have a conversation with him now, I'd say, listen, try it. Try the things that you're not too sure on. Try it before you decide you don't like it. Put 100% in to what you want to do. Because I was a bit of a bad boy at school. I started truanting. That's not really an English thing. I started not going to school in year 11, and I didn't enjoy it. So find things you enjoy, put 100% into them, and also, like I say, you don't know if you can do something until you try it. So just try everything, and just go for it. I think it's the most cliche thing I would say to myself is just go for it. And also, things aren't going to go to plan. But don't panic when things don't go to plan, because then another plan comes out of that. So, no plan survives contact with the enemy, as it were. Another question, which is quite a common question that I get asked, is why did you leave the commercial gym? Somebody asked. And actually, funnily enough, a new client asked me this the other day, what made you leave JD? And it was nothing to do with JD as a company. It was nothing to do with the people. I just needed a bit of a change. I think I'd realized that a lot of my clients didn't come from my business card up in JD. I wasn't the kind of conventional trainer that I would go around and start talking to people and picking on people's form and go, oh, hey, I'm Ryan. Do you mind if I just give you a few pointers? I was really bad at doing that. A lot of my clients came from Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. Old clients, they would refer me to their friends and stuff. So I didn't get many leads from working on the gym floor. And I think, and again, this isn't a JD problem. I think this is just a commercial gym problem. I think I wanted a bit more I wanted more. I don't know what more I wanted at the time, but I wanted more. And I think I wanted at the time, I think it was actually I wanted more freedom, and I wanted to be able to kind of do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I was self-employed. I was self-employed at JD for 18 months. I really enjoyed that. I was teaching classes. I really enjoyed that. But I think that maybe I wasn't willing to put 100% in, and I wasn't in the place to put 100%. I don't know. And I always use this whole thing of 100%. You can never give 100%, I think. Somebody's also said that, I think, before. At least somebody on a podcast I listened to, they said, something about giving 100%. But I think that one of the things that I found working in a commercial gym was that I like people being around me, but I also like being able to do whatever I want whenever I want. And then I was just generally looking, I was actually looking to open a spin studio when we were in Tenerife. I was in Tenerife on holiday last year, and I was looking at, I'd love to open a spin studio, like Power and Flow, I think is what it's called in America. Christina Gilrod, Jill, I don't know how to say her name. She's got a spin studio. Awesome person. And I was like, I'd like to do that. And I just looked at it and I thought, it's too expensive. So then this place came on. I was just on Rightmove just for the fun of it. I found it and I was like, do you know what? Maybe now is the time. Like, now is the time. I don't want to work in a commercial gym for the rest of my life. I definitely don't want to work on the commercial gym floor for the rest of my life. So, now is the time to go and do it. And I did it and I don't regret it. So that's the main thing. Very standard fitness question here from somebody saying, what is the actual best way to lose fat? Is exactly how they said it. It always comes down to, and again, this is the science, calorie deficit. In calories in versus calories out. It's not universal, because some people may have an underactive thyroid, people may have, medication side effects or whatever. But the general rule of thumb is, if you move more and eat less, you will lose weight. That's how it works. If you intake less calories than you output, i.e. if you eat less than you burn, you should find that you're losing fat, right? Now, the bigger the deficit, the more you will lose. It can also go the other way in terms of, I had a client come to me once and she said, I'm eating this much and I'm not losing weight. I'm like, actually, do you know what? You're eating probably a little bit too little. And your body, it's called metabolic adaptation. I'm not going to go into it massively, but it's basically where your body turns into fight or flight, and it really tries to hold on to as much energy as it can. So actually sometimes, going into too big a calorie deficit cannot be the best idea. But yeah, generally the general rule of thumb for losing fat is eat less and move more. And when I say move more, I don't mean go and do a high rocks every day. I mean just generally up your energy output. I started riding my bike to work every day, and my energy output, my calorie output every day is so much higher than it used to be. And that's just from commuting to and from work. So I'm not saying you have to get on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes every day. So yeah, general rule of thumb, eat less, move more. Why would I pay for coaching instead of just paying for a plan? And somebody else actually asked, I'm going to answer these two together. What's the difference between a PT and a coach? Now, why would you pay for coaching over a plan? Coaching is somebody in your corner 24/7. That is somebody who will coach you through things. So they will help you in the good times, they'll help you in the bad times, they'll help you in and out of the gym. A plan is very good. Some people do just want a plan. I do offer just plans. And I want to start on my website just selling fitness plans. 3-day splits, push-pull leg splits, whatever. I want to start selling fitness plans because I know some people don't need a coach. They just want some sort of structure in their life. So if you just want a bit of structure, a plan is a phenomenal idea, right? But if you struggle a little bit with accountability, or if you want a bit more than just a plan, then having a coach works, right? And that coach will take you through everything, or should take you through everything. Now, the difference between a PT and a coach, I think, is that a personal trainer will very much be there for you at the time, and then they'll see you next week, or they'll see you in your next session. And they don't normally see you in between then, or speak to you in between then. So you'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday with them, and they'll sit there and they'll help you with with your form, and they'll make sure that you're doing exercises safely, and they'll do this, that, and the other. But generally, that is that's as far as it goes. And that's not me shitting on the person. That's just generally as far as a normal personal trainer, quote unquote, the old style personal trainer will go. A coach really digs deeper and goes further than that. So I would count myself as a coach now. I do check-ins weekly. Most PTs now do check-ins. So most PTs are coaches. I think being a personal trainer now is more of a marketing term, because people know what a personal trainer is. You know, they don't know what a coach is, hence the question. The difference, I think, is personal trainer is very much in person. They'll see you there. And a coach is very much somebody who is in the corner. You know, you text them when you're out on a night out, you know, saying, I don't like this, but I know that people do it. You know, they'll text saying, you know, what should I have from the menu and stuff like that. I don't like that. But people do it. Or they'll be at the gym and they'll message me and say, hey, Ryan, can you just quick watch this video of me doing an RDL? I'm not really sure if I'm doing it right. I'm feeling it, but I don't know and then I'll watch it. You know, normally not all the time straight away. You know, my reply time is not instantaneous. But that's generally the difference between a coach and a personal trainer. And I think coaching is more valuable. Coaching is a more valuable service because you are really helping somebody go from zero to hero almost. And you're there throughout every step of the journey. You're not just there for the gym side. I do think coaches should be more highly qualified than a personal trainer. I think anybody can be a personal trainer. Anybody can go into the gym, train somebody for, you know, 20, 30, 40 pound an hour and sit there, count reps, make sure they're doing things right and write a general plan that someone can follow whenever they're with them. I think anybody can do that as long as you're qualified. I do think as a coach, you should look for further qualifications. I think you should do further CPD, I feel like, which is continued professional development, or you should do something else. I'm doing my nutrition course, my level 4 advanced sports nutrition. I'm also doing my level 3 sports massage. I will also, at the end of this year, be doing my pre and postnatal, and also lower back pain qualifications. So, and maybe some menopause stuff as well. I've done a CPD in GLP-1s, which are fat loss jabs. So I would like to think that a coach would put a little bit more into their service. That's what I would think a coach is anyway. That's the difference. So why would you pay for a plan? Why would you pay for a coach over a plan? Is because you want someone to be there every step of the way. Generally, as a coach, I'll give you a program on my app, which you can follow in and out of the gym. You don't have to see me every time you go to the gym. You will do one session a week, one session a fortnight, one session a month, and we'll just, you know, that's our check-in kind of, our making sure everything is right. And then you're very self-sufficient along that side. And then you've got the resource center on my app, which kind of gives you everything. Sooner or later, I'll be able to give nutritional advice, nutritional plans, meal plans, recipe guides, along with things like shopping lists and stuff like that. And then obviously along the side of that, you've got the sports massage and stuff like that. So a coach should be a little bit more qualified, in my opinion, or a little bit more knowledgeable. I think that you become a coach when you can really give more than just the session. You know, it's beyond the session. Do you ever get burnt out? And if so, how do you deal with it? I assume that means. I get burnt out all the time. I have ADHD, so I really struggle with kind of staying focused. I was talking to my business mentor about this the other day, that I was, you know, looking for what my next business is going to be when I've only just started this one. And I do class having opened the studio as starting my business, kind of starting from scratch almost. I'm very good at looking for the next best thing. I'm very good at spinning too many plates. One of my clients will always tell me, you know, you're doing too much. And I do a massive amount of stuff. You know, I'm a cadet instructor as well, so cadet force adult volunteer. So I work with young people. And then obviously I'm a coach here. So I've got a lot of stuff on, right? I think the way I deal with burnout is I'm very good at identifying burnout now. And I will then allow myself to get rid of the things that aren't important. So, for example, I normally have a priority list for the week, and I will look at it and I'll go, right, okay, that is a priority, but that isn't. And I'm feeling really overwhelmed, really quite burnt out. I'm going to take a little bit of time away. Jess and I are now getting good at going away and doing things together. So, you know, it's nice to be able to have that little bit of a disconnect from work. But I think being self-employed, you're very prone to burnout because you're always on. I'm replying to messages at 10 o'clock in the evening and I'm getting up at, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. So I think that burnout is very common. I think the best way to deal with burnout, and I have got a burnout coach who I would like to get onto the podcast eventually. I think the best way to deal with burnout is to identify it early, identify your signs of burnout, and start to slowly allow yourself to stop doing so much and look at yourself and go, right, this isn't important. So for me today, like I've got a really bad headache. I've not been feeling very well since Sunday, in today. I'm not feeling 100%, but I knew that this was really important to me. It's really important to film the podcast. So I said, right, I'm going to train my clients. I'm going to do this. And then, do you know what? I'm just going to take a little bit of time back for myself because I need to rest and recover. So it's being able to identify what's really important and what's important, but not important right now. That's important, but not important right now. It's not life-changing. That's how I identify burnout, and that's how I deal with it, is I then take some time to go and watch Marvel films or play some Fortnite or just whatever. I just like to take time for myself. And there's another one as well next to it, how do you stay productive when you're not feeling it? I think that there's a very big difference between being busy and being productive. I think anybody can be busy, but it's when you're productive, you don't necessarily have to be really busy. And vice versa, when you're busy doesn't necessarily mean you're being productive. I've been there before recently where, oh my God, I'm so busy, I can't cope with anything. Oh my God, I've got so much. None of it was productive. I was just doing things. And none of it was making me money. None of it was making me happy. None of it was actually increasing anything that I needed to be increasing. So it's a very different thing being busy and being productive. Now, when I don't feel like being productive, normally that's because I'm feeling burnt out. So I will slightly lighten my workload. However, if I don't feel like being productive, I will do something to make myself be productive. On Monday last week, I sat live streaming on Kick and I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to train. It was a bank holiday. I came into work, I wasn't feeling great. I was like, oh God, I don't want to do it. And I ended up going and doing it. And it was the best session I'd had in a very long time. Now, I'm not saying you have to force yourself to go and do things, but if you're not feeling productive, and again, if you can identify, this is something that I've learned, and I think this goes back to the first question, what would you tell 16-year-old Ryan? I have learned to understand my emotions and understand my feelings and also identify things early. I've been in a very bad place multiple times where I can't identify how I'm feeling, and I hit the red button, I go nuclear. So I'm getting very good at identifying when I'm feeling, what I'm feeling, and how to deal with what I'm feeling. So when I'm not feeling productive, it's normally because I'm feeling burnt out. And I know, okay, maybe we need to take a little bit of time. I'm changing environments. A lot when I'm not feeling productive, I change environments. I go to a coffee shop or I go to, somewhere to go and do some work. I go to a co-working space, whatever. I go somewhere and I change my environment so that I can kind of put myself in a different mindset headspace. And then I'll plan stuff out. If I'm not feeling productive, if the only productive thing I can do of the day is plan tomorrow, fine. Amazing. I don't feel it today. So what am I going to do tomorrow instead? Okay, well, I'm not going to do this today. I'll do this tomorrow. Tomorrow looks like this, and this. Fine. That was still productive. It's just not me being busy. And that's the difference. So when I'm not feeling productive, I try to kind of put it on the back burner and become productive tomorrow. Or sometimes I will push through. Sometimes I will push through and just say, right, okay, little 5-minute reset, go get a drink, do some jumping jacks, and then I'm back to it. Because unfortunately, sometimes if you're not feeling it, you still have to do it. And that's the reality of being an adult. I'm not even a parent yet, and I understand that. Sometimes you're not feeling it, you don't want to do it, but sometimes you just have to do it. And there is no option to not do it. So that's important, really important. What's a mistake you see a lot of people make in the gym? I see a lot of mistakes. It's because the thing is now as well, because I don't train very often in a commercial gym, I do a lot of my sessions here. It means that I don't see as much going on. I do see, you obviously see the odd form, lat pull downs being the main one. You see a terrible lat pull down where people start, doing a tricep push down at the bottom of it. But I think the biggest mistake that I see people make in general fitness is thinking that more is less. That thinking that more is better, when actually less is more most of the time. I see a lot of people who, they think they've got to be whamming, 10, 15 exercises per session. Volume equals growth. They think a lot, hitting chest 3 times a week is the best way to do things. I think that everybody's very, and I'll caveat that actually by saying, and we've said this has been a theme this season of the podcast, social media. I think a lot of people mistakenly follow social media plans and social media influencers who are A, not qualified as coaches, B, have a coach who gives them their workout specifically to them, and C, are doing things for views, likes, and engagement. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, is that they go, oh, well, I saw this on Instagram. Great. Okay. Not good. Don't follow. Probably not good for you. Might be, might not be. do your research. But I think one of the biggest things is time. People thinking that they need to be in the gym for 2 hours and smashing out long runs and long workouts and stuff, even marathon training. I've got a few clients who are half marathon training at the moment, and, they're being told they need to do this, this, and this. I'm like, whoa, calm down. You live a very busy life already. You can't fit that in. Work it into your lifestyle. So people's mistake, the biggest mistake I think people make is kind of not working efficiently. And that's another thing, it's gash sets. It's when they're doing, 3 to 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps, and their last 2 sets are just absolutely gash. And actually, had they gone a little bit heavier and done 2 sets to failure to start off with, they would have been much more effective than the last 2 sets at all. So that's one thing. That's definitely a thing. Biggest win and biggest fail with the studio. Biggest win, probably opening the studio. No, I think the biggest win was the equipment choice. I'm really happy that I chose the RPM Power Tier multi-fitness rig. I'm really happy that I picked that. Hashtag plug, hashtag sponsor me. I'm really happy that I picked the equipment I did. I'm happy I picked the dumbbells. I'm happy that I got the ski erg. I'm happy that I got the boxing bag. I'm happy with what I've done. I'm happy that I've opened the podcast studio up here. And I'm also happy that, I've just done it generally. I'm happy with what it looks like. I genuinely do think it's great. Biggest fail, energy provider. I really messed up with the energy provider, and I shan't go into it too much, but basically I meant to stay with one energy provider, and I didn't, because I kind of got sharked by the sales agent who I thought was working for this energy company. They weren't. So that was a bit of an ow. So I'm paying more for my energy than I need to be. But that's probably the biggest fail. That's probably the only fail I can think of. I think it was, we'll get onto this in a second actually, but somebody asked me what the hardest thing, here we go, what's the hardest thing about owning the studio? I think that the hardest thing I have found is that I don't have people to bounce off of during the day. I'm lonely at times. I feel reasonably isolated. Hence why I try to get out as much as I can. I go to a co-working space called Patch on a Tuesday. I teach a box fit class there, but also, it gets me out of the house. I go to another place called Ocho, which I go and do some work there. I'll go and have a coffee. I'll go and meet with people there. I do my meetings there. So that's nice. That's really, really nice. I think the other biggest thing that I realized was kind of not having, alongside not having anybody to bounce off of, is just knowing how to do things. I think things changed massively when I moved from, working in a commercial gym to owning my own gym. That's what I say. I say I'm a gym owner. It's a PT studio, but it's a gym, isn't it? It's a fitness facility. I think that was the biggest thing, is going from, one kind of thing to another. I'm now like a real business owner. Like I have assets, I'm doing a lot more than I was beforehand, So I think that's probably the hardest thing, is knowing how to run a business. To be as controversial as possible, I don't think that being a PT or being a coach or whatever, working on the gym floor, is running a business. You happen to be self-employed. Some of you maybe. You happen to be self-employed, but I don't think you're running a business. Yeah, you've got your overhead of the gym rent, okay? But there's a lot less to it than when you own your own facility or when you own a business. And I'm not saying that people are, they're not business owners or whatever. I just think that, because I was a self-employed PT. Look, there you go. There's the ice cream man. Oh, that better not be the ice cream man, because he didn't come across all last week when it was nice. So I think that there's definitely an element where, owning the studio has been the hardest part of opening the studio, because it's just different gravy. I've got so many different little things to think about. It costs more as well. It does cost more than working in a commercial gym. So there is that. And also, not really having the support of the gym staff as well. I think JD, the management team were actually really quite helpful, quite useful, really, really, they liked helping. They were very open to advice and helping me and, pushing me a little bit. So that was nice. I don't have that now. So I'm kind of on my own. moving to gaming, because I did say to put some gaming stuff on here as well. Because, guys, I do want to be a full-time content creator. You know, I want to be a streamer. I want to be ninja. What games are you playing right now? Well, I don't really play many games. Talking about being a gamer. I just don't really find the time for it. I find that I don't have enough friends anymore. During lockdown, I was streaming Valorant, 12 hours a day, or Fortnite, 12 hours a day. Now I don't really find that I have as much time for it, which is a little bit sad. Because I love gaming. It really does give me a bit of a release. It gives me a little bit of stress relief. It gives me a little bit of fun, social interaction, stuff like that. My friends and I, when I was younger, we'd go out and we'd, do whatever. We'd go to town and, do what 14-year-old kids do. But then we'd also come back and we'd play Call of Duty. And that was like my social, I like that being my social. But now my friends have all grown up. They've all got jobs. Some of them run businesses. Like, we don't have that time together anymore, which I think also I look back and I go, God, I'd love to play Black Ops 1 Zombies again. I'd love to go running around Kino de Toten. But actually, I wouldn't, because what I liked about that was the fact that I could stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning, because if I didn't want to go to school in the morning, I wouldn't go to school because I was awful at skiving school. Sorry, mum. But, I was awful at it. Whereas now I've got responsibilities. I can't just go, well, I'm going to play till 4 o'clock in the morning because A, my friends don't want to do that anymore. B, I've got to get up in the morning. C, my girlfriend will kill me. So there's so much more to it. It's nostalgia more than anything. I think gaming for me is more nostalgia. The games I'm playing at the moment, I still love Fortnite. I'm sorry, don't even care. 28 years old, play Fortnite. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. I think there's elements to it which, are not great, but hey ho, that's life. I'm not a big Call of Duty fan anymore. I did used to love Valorant. Valorant was amazing, but I just don't have time to play. You need to sink a lot of time into that game. I did start playing Road to Vostok, which is a new game, which is quite good. That was an extraction shooter. Well, not an extraction shooter. It's like a survival shooter. Really good. Bit of Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose Vietnam's coming out, which is going to be really fun. So yeah, I like shooter games. I think that's the best way to describe it. Don't get me wrong. I love an Assassin's Creed. I've always loved a bit of Assassin's Creed, GTA, Forza, but it's not my main games. So, and then here's another one, kind of talking about gaming, it's not talking about gaming at all. It's talking about content. Why did you start the podcast? And I think, I had a really interesting conversation with somebody the other day about starting the podcast too soon. I'm very busy. To be honest with you, I'm very busy. I've got a lot of stuff on. Again, busy doesn't always mean productive. I'm not always being productive, but I am busy. There's a lot of stuff going on in the brain of Ryan, which means that I haven't really had much time to sink into editing the podcast, which means I haven't had much time into vlogging and stuff. So when I'm looking at these videos, I'm just kind of going, right, transcribe. Okay, any keywords that I don't like. Okay, no, cool. Put that out then. And you'll notice season 2 is going to be a different level. If season 1 is down here, season 2 is going to be through the roof. So I started the podcast because I like talking, to be honest. You'll notice it in a lot of the episodes. I talk a lot. I talk over people. I like getting my word in. I want to be a presenter. The problem with the podcast at the moment is I'm interviewing and I'm doing it with a lot of friends. So you'll notice with some of the episodes, they're a lot less chaotic. And I'm letting the person speak a lot more, or I'm asking different questions because I don't know the person, right? Whereas when I'm doing it with friends, I talk a lot more because it's like a friendly conversation, which I didn't want it to be. I don't want the podcast to be a friendly conversation all the time. I want it to be friendly, I want it to be fun, but I want it to be informative and I want to help people as much as I can. That's the biggest thing. The reason why I started the podcast was to help as many people as I can in as many different ways as possible. Now, I coach a lot of people and I love that. Right. And I feel like I've affected a lot of people's lives. As a cadet instructor, I've seen young people go from, little scrope bags coming in at 12 years old to then leaving at 18 as really, really mature, amazing adults who are ready to go and tackle the world with everything they can. And I love that. Right. So I'd like to believe I've changed some people's lives. Hopefully for the good. But the idea with the podcast was I want to reach as many people as possible. And I want to send them the message that everything is going to be okay, that you can do it, that there is more to life than the troubles that you're going through. But I think that's the big thing is it was just get as many people as I can on here to share as many stories as I can so that I can just help people. because I can't help you with everything, right? Take example, Ellie, for example. You know, she's a fantastic natural women's health coach. I think that's what she called herself, natural women's health coach, something along those lines. Holistic natural women's health coach. She's amazing, phenomenal, fantastic woman. I can't help with some of the things that she does, right? Same thing with Claire, right? Claire is a single mum, you know. I can't relate to that, you know. Kai, you know, a business owner in the videography space. I can't relate to that anymore, right? Alice, fantastic, amazing example. And the same thing with Abby as well. Amazing examples of women in industries that are classically male dominated. Amazing. How phenomenal is that? So if I can share their stories, great. Love that. And if that helps somebody, love that even more. And this is another one kind of going on from there. You know, who is your hero? And this comes on to another question, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Very Matthew McConaughey. My hero is me in 10 years. And somebody goes, oh, wow, why is your hero you in 10 years? I'm never going to meet you. What happens in 10 years? Well, I'm never going to meet that guy. I think that's kind of how it goes. My hero genuinely is me in 5-10 years. And it was 5 or 10 years ago. I am not who I want to be just yet. And I will never probably be that person. I hold myself to a very high standard. However, my hero is me because I've been through so much. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I have been through a lot. Right, there's a lot of things that have happened to me in my life that have formed me to be where I am now. Me in 5 years will have gone through all of that stuff, grown and understood. Now, 5 years ago, if you'd have told 22-year-old me, 21-year-old, 23-year-old me, words, if you'd have told me, so in 2021, when I'd broken up with a girlfriend who, you know, it's very intense, very fast relationship, if you'd have told me that I am where I am now, I wouldn't have believed you. But that person was my hero, right? I am my own hero. I really do believe it. I also don't believe in looking up to loads of other people because they always say never meet your heroes. But I genuinely think that I am my own hero. I'm so proud of where I've come. I'm so proud of how... There's another one, right? Look, bakeries around here. Love it. Mobile bakeries. I'm so proud of how far I've come. So proud. I've got a while to go. Right, I've got a very long way to go, but I'm very, very, very proud of how far I've come and what I've come through, what I've grown through. Right, so I genuinely believe I am my own hero. 5 year me is my own hero. I will never be 5 year me because I will be constantly adapting and changing. But I'd like to think that 5 year me really is my own hero. And in 5 years' time, where would I like to be? Well, I'd like to own a bigger gym. I've got plans. I'm not going to share them all yet. I'm going to keep them right here. But I would like to own a bigger gym, which I think will be quite the hit, actually. I've got quite a good plan for it. So I'd like to own a bigger gym. I'd like to have satellite studios. I'd like to have the option to open these studios for PTs, for personal trainers, for coaches, in the area. I don't see, you know, I've got another PT four doors down from me who's got another studio like this. I don't see us as competition. I think that we can help just as many people. I do think that these spaces are becoming more common, more popular. So I would like to help other PTs open them, or open them for them and then hire PTs into them. You know, Cirencester, Gloucester, Cheltenham, Tewkesbury, Forest of Dean, you know, wherever. That's what I'd like to do. You know, I'd really like that. And then also, you know, I'd be mad. I'd like to have 2 kids. I'd like to have a dog. More than anything. Sorry, Jess. I'd like to have a dog. That's my goal. I'd like to be buff. I'd like to be absolutely massive. I'd like to be benching 200 kg. I'd like to be making good money. I'd like to be, you know, financially free. I'd like to be free enough to be able to go and do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, for however long I want. That's what I'd like to be able to do. But I think the main thing is I'd like to be helping people just as much as I am now. I'd like to be doing the right thing, as it were. So that's good. Here's a good one, and I've been asked this actually by a couple of people. Do you regret pulling out of the marathon? Now, some of you may remember in the earlier stages of this podcast, I had a bad knee. I talked to Rosie about it. I talked to Claire about it. I had a really bad knee. Turns out I'd actually only really damaged the meniscus and something else. I can't remember what the guy said now, but I'd only damaged the meniscus. It was really badly inflamed, which is why which is why I could barely walk. Right. So I pulled out of the marathon. I deferred until 2027. Meningitis Now, the charity I'm running for, said that's fine. Just keep fundraising. We'll keep your place for next year. Fantastic. Amazing. Because I didn't do very well at it last year. And it was hard, right? So imagine doing it with a bad knee going into it. I haven't obviously then trained. Right now, my knee is totally fine. No issue whatsoever. I can do heavy squats. I can run. I can row. I can ride my bike. So, do I regret pulling out the marathon? No, not at all. Because had I not pulled out the marathon, we all know the knee wouldn't have recovered. But also, had I not pulled out the marathon, I wouldn't have been able to train anyway. Because I'd only be able to train now, and it's in 2 weeks' time. So I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do. I wouldn't be able to do it in a faster time. I wouldn't have been able. I'd have been limping it. In fact, I probably wouldn't have finished. I probably would have got a DNF this year because the pain was that bad from walking. So, no, I'm not. I don't regret it. No, I'm not upset with myself. No, I'm not angry with myself. I do feel a little bit bummed out because I would love to run it again. I saw people running the London landmarks yesterday. And obviously, was it yesterday? Yeah, and Brighton and Paris and all these other marathons and half marathons, and I love the atmosphere of it. Right, I'm not a runner. I'll be honest with you. I'm not built like a runner. I'm built like a powerlifter. But I really would like to do it again. So no, I don't regret it. I think it was exactly the right decision to make. If I was my own client and I had the issues I had, I'd have said pull out straight away. So there you go. I'm not unhappy with it. And this kind of goes on to the next one, which is, what are your current fitness goals, or what are your fitness goals RN, which I assume means right now. Fitness goals at the moment, I don't really have any. I haven't been, so throughout kind of like end of January to middle to end of March, I hadn't trained properly because of my knee, because I was ill. There was a lot of stuff going on. I went on a course in the middle of February and then I got really ill. So I didn't really train as much. My goal at the moment is just to hit 4 solid sessions per week, get stronger, lose some weight, lose some fat, and just feel good. That's genuinely where I'm at. I don't care about what I look like. Yeah, I'd love to have abs. Yeah, I'd love to lose 10 kilograms because I am weighing in at the heaviest I've ever weighed in. But I'm also benching and squatting and deadlifting more than I've ever benched, squat and deadlifted before in my life. So I'm stronger. I'm getting stronger. The muscle mass is up there, right? If I lose too much weight, I'm gonna have to lose muscle mass, which I'm okay with doing. I will have to for the next marathon, but I think also my next goal will be to run a sub 22 minute 5k. I would like that. I'd like to get a bit speedy. Sub 25k, sub 22 minute 5k and a 140 kg bench. Those would be my 2 biggest fitness goals at the moment, like my actual fitness goals. Aesthetically, yeah, I'd like to lose some fat. Yeah, I'd like to do some posing lessons. No, I'd never like to go on stage. Yeah, my fitness goals at the moment are very standard. I want to feel better. I want to be fit for life. I want to have a better health span. I want to be healthy and focus on balance, and that's what I'm trying to do in my nutrition. But my nutrition really lets me down, to be honest with you. Here's one about content. How do you deal with low views or low engagement? I feel like a lot of people deal with this. I feel like some people will have a really viral video or a video go viral and then they'll think, oh my God, this is amazing. And then actually the views go back down. A lot of people in TikTok, they're in the 300 view jail. It really pisses me off, to be honest with you. I feel like my content's quite good. I know it could be better. So I think for me personally, I just take it as the content is out there now. If I get famous, if I get loads of views, one day maybe people will go back and watch it. I always make sure I'm proud of what I post, which is kind of true, kind of not true with the podcast at the moment, because like I said, I've not had much time to put into it. I've just kind of been very blasé-ing it, which is why season 2 is going to slap. But I think, when you get low views, low engagement, I think you've got to wonder one of 2 things. Are you not good enough at what you're doing, or is it just that the internet isn't good at finding you? And it's usually the latter. I know some phenomenal coaches who have got 300 followers. I also know some absolutely gash coaches who have got 200,000 followers. So is it luck of the draw? Is it really knowing the algorithm? My personal preference, I would love to hire a social media manager. I would love someone to do all my socials for me. I'd love them to tell me what... I'd love to hire a social media coach, just like people hire fitness coaches. I'd like to be able to hire a coach, someone who tell me exactly what to do, check in with me once a week, really help me get hundreds of thousands of views. I'd love that. That would be great. But I also don't have that kind of money to sink into it. So I think the best way to deal with low views, low engagement is just to go, right, well, it's out there on the internet now. We're happy with it. It's going to reach the right people. And again, it depends on your goal when it comes to social media, right? As a coach, you shouldn't be trying to, as a in-person personal trainer in Cheltenham, if somebody in Cheltenham, Australia sees my video, great. How are you commuting for a PT session then? Do you know what I mean? So realistically, what do you want? Do you want to be postcode famous or do you want to be worldwide famous? And also, why do you want to be famous? I'd like everybody in Cheltenham to know my name. I'd like everybody in Cheltenham to know, right, Ryan is the go-to guy for this. I would like that. That'd be great. Because in Cheltenham, that's really valid. That's really relevant. It's really valid. I'd like people to know where I'm at. So actually, 1,000 views in the right place is a lot of people, right? 300 views is a lot of people, right? So you got to kind of re-image, refocus, reframe that low view, low engagement to, okay, it's only got 1,000 views, but they're all the correct demographic. They're all, in the right place, the right age, the right gender for me. Fantastic. That's great. Amazing. Whereas you could have 1 million views of people who've only watched the first 2 seconds and actually they didn't care about your content anyway and they didn't comment on it. So, there's that. Any more questions? We're getting to about 45 minutes now. That was burnout. That was studio. Didn't get as many questions as I wanted to get, to be honest, yeah? To be honest with you. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all of the questions now. Fantastic. Well, that's most of them. I've covered most of them anyway. Fantastic. Well, we won't drag it on for longer than it needs to be dragged on for. Hopefully you guys have learned a little bit about me. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about me. Hopefully you like me. And I wanted to do this episode a little bit off the cuff. But I also wanted to do, mid-season Q&A. I've kind of messed up the episodes a little bit, and the episode numbering, but it's fine. It is what it is. Like I say, season 2, which, we'll do 2 more episodes of this season, then we'll have a little break, only a couple of weeks, month or so. And then we'll come back with season 2, which is going to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, everything, as that song goes. So yeah, very exciting. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you did watch this one because it's hard to do this on your own. I don't know how people do podcasts on your own, because you really need somebody to bounce off of. I'm asking, do you think season 2 needs a co-host? Genuine question. Season 2 of the Flex Appeal podcast. Do we need a co-host? Do we need a consistent co-host, or do we just want a couple of people with the guests? What do you think? Genuine question. If you've gotten this far into the podcast, what do you think? Do we need a co-host? Would it help? But thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. Please make sure you're following on Spotify, because I realise nobody follows on Spotify. Make sure you're following because you get notified when we post, right? Make sure you're following me on Instagram, following the Flex Appeal podcast on Instagram, following RyanRQDX or RyanRQDX on Instagram. I'm also making a new fitness-specific Instagram for the studio. So watch your space. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. We're going to keep all the content in one place on YouTube, makes it easier. If you're interested in online coaching, in-person coaching, if you're from the area and you want to coach with me, then send me a message, okay? Go to my website, fill out my forms, whatever you want to do, right? Get in contact with me in some way, shape or form. Thank you very much for watching. Please share this with your friends. Share Flex Appeal, right? Share the Flex Appeal podcast, right? I'll give you a pillow. Look at that. Mumsy made these. Share the Flex Appeal podcast. Go back and watch the old episodes. Get it on when you're in the car going on a long journey. Right. Tell me what you want to hear in the podcast as well. I want to know your feedback. I don't get much feedback from the podcast. I'm just kind of blindly doing it. Eyes closed, going for it, like that direction. But let me know what you genuinely think of the podcast, please. I would really appreciate it, even if you think it's shit. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode of the Flex Appeal podcast.